Okay, I'm going to suggest
For second reading.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All in favor, please indicate that is carried. Thank you. Greg, please.
I'd like to make third reading.
Okay, Greg makes a motion to approve third reading of bylaw 2061-23. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Let's move on to item number 7.2, bylaw 2062-23, 23 Land Use Agreement 006. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you.
Hello, Jeff.
Sorry, Maria stepped out with Sergeant Searle there for a second. Sorry, 26-2-23 land use amendments. So
That's right.
Can I just pull the map up, Lane? This is a land use amendment for first reading. This, oh, that's all right, Maria's here.
Welcome, Maria.
I apologize.
No, not to worry.
Okay, this is a road closure and land swap. The land is in Division 6, approximately. Yes. Land use amendment. So this is the land use amendment from Ag Gen to Residential Rural District. The subject parcel is located 2.4 kilometers northeast of the village of Rosemary. It is a vacant dry land pivot corner. The Municipal Planning Commission approved a subdivision on the subject parcel on October 5th, and a condition of that land use amendment was that the land be amended from Agriculture General District to Residential Rural District, and the reason for that is because the parcel is less than 3 acres in size, and it's the second parcel out of the quarter section. The residential rural district of the land use bylaw is to provide for acreage residential or clustered development on parcels that can support private water and sewer systems in agricultural areas. A septic suitability study was submitted with the subdivision application, and this site is suitable to meet the Alberta Safety Code standard. So it is recommended that Council approve first reading to bylaw 2062-23, and then a public hearing will be set for a future date.
Thank you, Maria. Are there any questions? This is first reading, so there will be reconsideration and also opportunity for public comment. Any questions or a motion? Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I was interested in making a motion to approve first reading.
Thank you. We'll accept that. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you, Maria. With that, we'll move on to item 9, administrative business, and item 9.1, road closure and land swap resolution on south of 6/21/18 west of 4. Go ahead, please, Maria.
Thank you.
This is the one. Yeah, that's right.
This is a road that has been closed. The land is in Division 6, approximately 4 kilometers south of Bizano. The subject road was closed and leased to the applicant in 2018 to facilitate a pivot irrigation system. Since that time, the applicant has constructed a shop on the road allowance adjacent to the southeast of 6/21/18. Typically, an agricultural building can be constructed in an ag general district without the benefit of a development permit, but that's assuming that it meets the requirements of the land use bylaw. So in this case, they're not on their property, so we need to rectify that encroachment. Approval to proceed for this road closure and land swap was granted by council in May of this year. Because the red portion outlined on this map is a road plan, rather than going through the formal bylaw process, we're able to do this by resolution. So I am looking today for a resolution to close and sell portions of road and then send this to Alberta Transportation for their approval. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Maria. Are there questions? Or seeing Neil, go ahead, please.
What's the dollars involved in this land sale? You probably answered that before, but.
Go ahead, Maria, please.
That's a great question. I forgot to mention. So the applicant will be responsible for all surveying and land transfer costs. The land that will be taken from the applicant is approximately the same as what will be given to the county. So what will happen is we will close the red and consolidate that with the applicant's land, and then the yellow will then become the new road plan. There's a bridge file to the south that will not be constructed in the future. So that's why it's necessary to get that road plan in place for future use if necessary. So the applicant will be responsible for paying any difference in land amount if there is any, but all the costs associated with the transfer is theirs and not the county's.
Thank you, Maria. Any further? Neil, go ahead.
Yeah, just with land values, you're buying ag and you're selling basically light industrial or residential property. So should there be a difference between maybe 15,000 and 5,000 in the deal to make it fair? Do you know what I mean? I don't think you're trading apples for apples.
Yeah.
You're trading apples for something not quite as good.
Go ahead, Maria, and then.
A portion of what would be taken from the applicant is irrigated, and then the other portion is dry land, and I guess that's the same with the reciprocal. I don't have the information in front of me, but I did get land values for the red parcel from the assessor, so that is something we could look at.
Okay, thanks. Kelly, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that we're not dealing with that at this point. I think that comes later, land values and that sort of thing. Would that be correct, Maria?
Maria, go ahead.
My recommendation, I guess, would be that we determine the amount of land that's being traded. The surveyor will go out and ensure that, or see what each road would be, and then we can discuss the land value if there is a difference in acres.
And I know this property or this deal, we've talked about it back in May. You can see that it's providing us with a much safer road in the end, right? It's a straight line as compared to a curve in the property. So, yeah, I would like to see this this project move forward and cleaned up in shorter order. It's been 6 months now, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Holly, please.
I guess my question was more around, so we have documents to cancel the current road allowance, basically. So the documents don't get done the same time for replacing it? We're only seeing one side of it? When does the other side, or does that not come to us at all?
I think that's kind of outlined maybe in the motion, proposed motion, but go ahead, Maria. Yeah.
Yeah, so the proposed motion would be that we close and transfer the red portion of of the plan. And then we initiate the road plan for the yellow portion, and the applicant would then lease that from the county. So really what's happening now will be happening later, so that we're being fair and equitable to other people that lease road allowances and have encroached on road allowances. The closure and then the redesignation of road plan would happen concurrently. So everything would be registered at land titles at the same time.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And I'll just refer to the proposed resolution that council approves the road closure and sale contingent on a new road plan being registered and transferred to the county along the north portion of south half of 6/21/18. So I think that implies reciprocal arrangement. So any further questions, or someone ready to approve the resolution or make the motion for the resolution? Dan, please, go ahead.
Yeah, just looking in the response option, I don't want to read all of that out, but it kind of looks like the way the motion's written is saying that for option 1, we're going to close and sell the following roads. And it looks like we're saying to close 2 roads, but if you understand the motion the way you wrote it, then I'm willing to make that motion, as long as it makes sense to you.
Go ahead, Maria, you've got a comment?
Sure, that makes sense. So the reason that there is 2 descriptions is because there's a jog, and so this description was what I got from the Alberta Land Surveyor. The resolution to go to Alberta Transportation is just for the road closure and sale. I will follow through with the new road plan on the tail end of it.
Yeah. Thank you. You make that motion, Dan. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Maria. Let's move on to item 9.2, advanced tendering of a pumper tender fire engine for the Tilley Fire Department. Welcome, Stuart.
Thank you, Reeve Council, for having me in today. So today I come to you with a request to purchase and increase the 2024 capital replacement of the rural pumper tender fire engine for the Tilley Fire Department in 2023. So Tilley Fire Department currently has a 2004 2,000-gallon international truck. This fall, when obtaining current prices for our apparatus so that we could be accurate with our 20-year plan, I was told that the budget for the new pumper tender is $685,000 plus GST, and the current build time is 20 months. So the cost to replace this truck in the 2024 budget was estimated at $500,000, which I increased last year, hoping that that was enough, putting this vehicle 31% over the current budget that we have. I asked the vendor if we waited until 2024 to purchase this, what the anticipated cost would be, and he replied that he always allows for about 5% every year, but unfortunately in the last year and a half, he's seen increases of about 50% to the vehicles, and he would anticipate a 10% increase in that budget allowance from the already increased price that we have. I've also approached the same group through Canoe that we're currently getting our Maverick built from for Rosemary, and he also confirms that the price for a new pumper tender, 3,000 gallons, is roughly $650,000 to $700,000, with a current build of about 24 months, with a very good possibility that the increase in 2024 will be somewhere between 10 to 15% on that vehicle. So, so today I come to you and there's 3 recommendations: that Council approve the tender purchase with a budget increase in 2023, that council directs administration to adhere to the current processes, or council provides some alternative direction on moving forward. And it is my recommendation that the fire services to proceed with tendering of the replacement of the roll pumper tender engine for the Tilley Fire Department funded from the 2024 budget, and increase the approved allocation within the capital apparatus replacement plan from $500,000 to $685,000, funded under the 23 capital.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Are there questions? Amanda, please, go ahead.
Stuart, what is the mileage on that truck?
I don't have that offhand, sorry. It is an old tender. The other thing to note with that tender is it's not a ULC fire-rated tender. It was, I think, an oil well tender that came to Bazana or to Rolling Hills, starting with, and then when Rolling Hills got their new pumper tender, it moved over to Tilley. We still kept it within that 20-year replacement plan, even though it didn't meet the criteria of a true fire pump. So that truck, I'm not too sure what the kilometers is, but it is not an approved proper ULC truck for us.
And what will happen to that truck if we buy a new one?
That's a good question. I haven't put much thought to it. I would think that we would maybe send it off to auction, or we do a real evaluation and maybe make a recommendation for the group that was in here earlier that maybe it go south for some assistance in Mexico. So I would have to do a true evaluation on how good the pump is and things like that. It's something that we've never had pump tested every year because it doesn't meet the standards. So we save that money in doing pump tests to see how good the pump truly is. So, but we could have our AB Fire Tech people look at it and see how good a shape it is, and maybe we can get a good value return on it. But coming from an oil well company to Rolling Hills to Tilley, I'm thinking it's been loved quite well, and it's probably a little tired.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Matt, you have some comments?
Yeah, so when Stuart approached me and Lane with these updated numbers, this is what you're going to see across the board for your equipment replacement wholesale. You're looking at 20-30% increases across the board. We bought 6 graders for $512, and I think the replacement now is $685, around there. You'll see all the numbers, the impact to our forecasts. But when Stuart approached and said, you know, if we order this now or put it out to tender so we can get the quotes back, we potentially save. I fully support Stuart bringing this early and not waiting any longer. These units we replace every 20 years. That's the standard set by the chiefs that council has supported. I don't think we can order this unit fast enough.
Thanks. Oh, go ahead, Stuart, and then Ellen. Yeah.
Yeah, just to make one more comment, in the 2 vendors I talked with, one from Canoe, one from down in Winnipeg, both vendors had stated that there would not be a payment until January of 2024, so that we would have all our payments fall within that yearly budget. It's just simply to get things tendered out so that we don't have to worry about allocating costs this year. It'll still be in next year's calendar year.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Matt, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, the only other procedural thing I'd put in front of council as a reminder is any purchase over $350,000 or tender, it will come back to this chamber for final approval. So Stuart's just going to market with this, prices will come back, and at that point we can make a final determination whether you move forward or not.
Okay, thanks for that. Ellen, you had a...
Yeah, when do you expect a quote from the procurement group coming back, the Canoe?
Yeah, so for the procurement group, I've sent a base spec of what I'm looking for from my truck, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. The one from Rocky Mountain Phoenix, where we're purchasing Rosemary's truck, he called and verbally told me just so that I could report to you the dollar values and how long it would take to get it built. But I will be getting them back soon and then make an evaluation on whether we're just going to go through Canoe or tender it out. Our group that we normally get our pumper tenders from are not part of Canoe. And there's a lot to that, but I'll definitely do an evaluation on whether I'm going to tender or just use the Canoe process. But either way, it will come back to council for their approval.
Thank you, Stuart. Any further questions or someone? Oh yeah, Dan, sorry, I missed you.
Yeah. Couple questions. What does Tilley currently have for tenders? Is that the only one they have, or do they have another option? That's their only tender?
Yeah, that's their only tender. Currently, Tilley has the rapid response rescue, one engine, and one tender.
Okay.
So,
and then the other one is, I get the gamble on this, buying now and hopefully it doesn't go up too much. I mean, there's always a chance prices could stabilize, but I'm willing to take this gamble. But then what about waiting until this needs assessment to find out if the pumper tender is right, or if there's a different option that might be better for Tilley?
I don't have a good answer for the needs assessment end of things. I have a suspicion, just because of distance, that a tender in Tilley is probably a good idea, but we would have to wait back from that. As for stabilization of the vehicles, everybody is still telling me not a chance. The prices still are rising and increasing, and both vendors that I talked to said it will more than likely be minimum that 10% increase.
Okay, thank you, Dan, and then Lynette.
Then I was going to make the motion to approve this request as option 1.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Lynette, a comment or a question?
Well, it was more of just a comment or something to throw out there. The ambulance or the fire truck that they took down to Mexico was a 1990 with only 20,000 K on it. How much longer are they going to use it down there, buying parts and whatever? I know it's older, but they can probably still get parts. This one that we're wanting to replace right now is a 2004. With your 20-year changeover, we're in Canada. We should be able to get parts easier for a vehicle. So really, I don't know, just the 20-year thing, do we have to stick with that? Because it sure costs us a lot of money to keep going in that rotation. From what I understood, the 20-year thing was a county mandate. Yes.
So,
go ahead, Stuart. Yeah.
So with that, with our fire engine pumpers or anything that has a fire pump to it, the NFPA standard is that truck is out of service after 20 years. So yes, council made that decision, but it is an NFPA standard that it go out of service. I have been doing my due diligence, trying to find options, and in talking about finding different options for vehicles that have 20,000, 10,000 kilometers and things like that. Even after 20 years, ULC is very hesitant to approve or extend vehicles like that. And now we get into, do we just replace the pump and how much is that going to cost? But then when we replace the pump, there's wiring, and then there's it compounds according to, you know, in particular our pump tester that works on them every year. He's talked with ULC and a few others and said that the cost value to upgrade a truck for another extended period of time is just so extensive, it's not worth the effort to do that. So.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Lynette, another comment?
So that NFPA, I assume that's provincial. So just something else to think about is that they ran an ambulance to 400,000 K. and the fire truck only to 20,000. So like maybe the ambulances should be coming out of service a little quicker, and that's something that we should be talking to the upper level in the province about considering. And I would be curious to hear what it actually costs to change everything over, like if you were to change out a pump. And
Okay, thanks. Stuart, do you have a comment?
Just two quick comments to that. NFPA is national, not provincial. And there's a difference between an ambulance and a fire pump, right? We're not talking about the chassis that only puts on 10,000 kilometers. It's the pump that works for 20 years of service. And that's what typically is what goes out of service. So as we move forward here and we have our smaller rescue trucks and our medium duty rescue trucks, they don't have pumps. So could we extend them out? We probably could if we're not spending a lot of money on repairs and things like that. So the other thing to remember with fire trucks is even though they only have 10,000, 20,000 kilometers on them, in rural county of Newell, it goes over the prairies a lot and has a lot of abuse to it because of that, with 1,000 gallons or upwards of 3,000 gallons of what I'm requesting today. So there's a lot of wear and tear to that vehicle, even though there's not a lot of kilometers to it. So there's those factors to put into it as well.
Thanks, Stuart. Holly, please.
So does the province as a whole follow the NFPA standards, or the country, or who, these standards are in place, but they followed widely?
In the fire service, the NFPA is followed very closely. We follow NFPA for gear replacement, SCBAs, truck replacements, like in the fire service, and we're talking national-wide. NFPA is the standard that all the fire departments follow. Some smaller communities, and I know from Saskatchewan in particular, in Careport, they extend their trucks out a little bit farther. But truly, the only extension you can do on a truck is another 5 years. You could do another test on a vehicle to extend it for an additional 5 years. But then all you're doing is prolonging the inevitable, right? And the cost will keep rising over those 5 years. So do you purchase now and replace, or do you extend the pump out and then pay even more 5 years down the road?
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Holly, and then Lynette.
So you're saying if you replace the pump, you do all that work, it still only gains us 5 years? Do I understand that correctly?
It's not replacing the pump. It's doing, what we annually do is pump tests to make sure that the trucks are running at the proper liters per minute. So if a truck hits 20 years and we want to extend it another 5, they do a more comprehensive test. So instead of an hour pump test, it's a 4-hour pump test. It's got to go on a road test. And then we risk the chance of having issues with things that could come up with that. So it's not just the pump test cost, it's anything that falls within that to make it worthy for another 5 years. And it's not replacing the pump, it's just ensuring that it will still last for another 5.
Okay, thank you. Lynette, do you have a comment?
Just maybe then the stats on pumper trucks would be hours of operation rather than kilometers would make more sense, right? To look at how much they've been used and...
Yeah. Okay. Good. Any further questions? We have a motion on the floor to approve advanced tender, proceed with advanced tender. Any further questions? Ready for the question? All in favor, please indicate. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Stuart. Let's move on to item number 9.3, Shortgrass Library System 2024 Municipal Levy Reduction Lane. Can you take us through that? We have notes in our package.
So the Shortgrass Library System has passed their 2024 budget. I think that they need to be commended for coming in with a 0% increase. Job well done there. It is a formality that council is required to approve their annual budget and notify them accordingly.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there questions or a motion to approve? Ellen, please.
I like to motion option 1, approve the 2024 budget as submitted.
Thank you. Any further questions? All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Lane. Sorry? Yeah, maybe it's 3 minutes to 12. I'm going to suggest we break for lunch and reconvene at somewhere, maybe 20 to 1. Is that a reasonable time frame? We'll shoot for that. Thank you. We'll recess. Okay, thank you. Greg, please.
I think there is a correlation between both. I think we should be able to get the RMA report and take a look and analyze that. And then I do think it is very important for us to answer these questions from our perspective as the county of Newell, and that's where I'm agreeing with Neil. We have a different perspective than many other jurisdictions, and I think there's a correlation between the two reports.
Okay, time frame. What was your time frame again? How long are they taking submissions?
November 22nd, I think, the comment matrix, they'd like to have it submitted by, so I think we could probably rediscuss at the first meeting after RMA.
There will not be
No,
one
we
till
won't have
December.
one.
Yeah, right? Matt?
If there is interest in answering the questions, I would recommend that today maybe you form a committee of 3 councillors to work with our planning and development staff at an initial draft on those. We are meeting November 15th, Committee of the Whole for budget review, and we could kick it around with the entire group then and still make a November 22nd deadline.
Okay, I think that's a good suggestion to use our time efficiently. Then I suppose in the meantime, we would still apply for at least observer status, and we could move to intervener status if we think we need to later. Yeah. Lynette, please.
I would be ready to make that motion that we register for observer status, as well as what Matt had all just laid out to
Establish
work on the questions.
Subcommittee of say
Yeah.
three members.
I think we'll want to be answering those questions regardless of what the report comes back as, I feel like, just to have our say.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Greg?
I'd be willing to sit on that committee.
Okay, we will, Holly, please.
I'd like to be on the committee as well.
Okay, that's good. Go ahead, question?
So with this matrix, are they asking each municipality to give a response, or how is it, who are they expecting responses from?
Anybody, municipalities, corporations, solar developers, private landowners,
individuals.
They are. This inquiry is not municipally based. It is an inquiry for anybody with an interest in solar and renewable energy development.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. Neil, you got a question or? Oh, okay. Let's. Okay, let's first we'll deal with the motion. All in favor of the motion that we apply for observer status and also establish a subcommittee of council to work with staff to create some responses to the matrix questions. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to establishing that subcommittee of 3. Is that Neil and Holly and Greg have volunteered to be part of that? Are we comfortable with that? The 3 of you working on that. Neil, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it, but I know all the rest of you have opinions, and if we're going to come up with a council way of answering these questions, maybe we should do it as a council. Or, I don't know, that might be cumbersome, but.
I would suggest that you work together on it and then send out a draft that we can respond to potentially. Is that a reasonable way to consider it? I think basically this is a proactive approach to saying if we're going to do this, how do we do it? I don't mean this procedure, but the whole matter of energy production. Kelly, did you have a comment or no? Okay.
I was just thinking if an understanding of the report would be a background on that, but I don't think so. I think this committee can do their work, and then I can comment later. after
Well, and
you
I,
explain.
yeah, I think that there will be some time in between. As Matt mentioned, there is a meeting on the 15th. I would expect that the staff and this subcommittee would have done their work by then, and we would also have the report in hand by that time, and we can have a meaningful discussion on the 15th about what we think next steps need to be, and an opportunity. I mean, we'll be together a time or two before then, where we can kind of get a sense of where we think we're going. So, is that a reasonable approach?
I think RMA will give us a pretty good chance to interact with some other councillors from some other areas. Well, might change our minds one way or another, but
Yeah.
it's important. Like it's just too much money not to really pay attention to.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we'll proceed forward on that basis. Yeah, I guess we do need a motion to appoint the 3 people. Ellen?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we appoint Holly and Greg and Neil to that subcommittee. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. That covers that issue. Thanks, Jeff. We will move on to item number 9.7, Director of Corporate Services. Lane, please.
I have provided council with the activity report for the third quarter of 2023. If there's specific things that are in the report that you want some additional information on, I can certainly try to answer those. Just pull out a couple of highlights. Emergency services, of course, we did prepare for the grand openings that took place in Patricia and Rolling Hills. Those were just last week and the Saturday before, and we appreciated council's support, those that were able to come out. They were successful events. Finance is working on the budget, and you should anticipate receiving your copy of the budget document on Halloween. It won't be that scary. And we did send out the notice of local improvement for the Lake Newell Resort Pathway Project. The deadline for petitioning against that has come and gone. It was on Monday. There has been a few concerns raised by some of the residents there. We'll have to deal with those as the project goes ahead, but that's the highlights. If you've got any questions, let's have them.
Thank you, Lane. Are there questions? Holly, go ahead, please.
Could you explain a little bit more about the process for that pathway, like how it works in terms of people, the timeline, I guess I'm looking for?
Okay, of course, it all started with the presentation that was made by the Lake Newell Resort Community Association, came in and requested council support to go ahead. Council endorsed their project, and we did proceed with issuing notices to all of the property owners. The notice outlined what the project was, what the cost would be to each of the individual property owners, how it would be funded, and gave specific information about what the process is if they wanted to petition against that project. So we've completed that part of it. Now that we have passed that period for petitioning against it, the project is going through the design stage. We anticipate that it is going to be proceeding with design during the winter, and we should be in a position to proceed with tender in the spring, followed by construction. After the costs for the project have been finalized, then we would be going back to the property owners, letting them know what the total cost was and what their final cost will be. They will have an opportunity then to pay for it up front or to choose to amortize it over the life of the project. So that's how a local improvement project works, how it proceeds.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for that report, Lane, and appreciate the information. Let's move on to item 9.8, a request for proclamation of National Day of the Child for November 20th. We have an explanation of that in our package. Is someone prepared to make a motion to that effect? Kelly, please, you make the motion?
Yes.
Okay, that we declare November 20th National Day of the Child. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to 9.9, Rural Municipalities of Alberta Fall 2023 Convention. Ariana, please.
All right, thank you. Find my RFD, so not a lot of responses. We have one meeting confirmed with the Premier on November 7th, I think. They were looking for a list of topics to discuss. And then the other one is the Minister of Forestry and Parks. That one is also November 7th at 8:30 in the morning. And they are looking for who's going to attend that meeting. The other responses I got, Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation are going to confirm a meeting mid to late October, which is now, so hopefully soon. And then Tourism and Sport, the topic was the Kimbrook Island Park Group Use Site. The response was the matter was under the portfolio of Forestry and Parks. So haven't heard from anyone else yet.
Okay, thank you. So the meeting with the Premier, I think, is set. Topics that we want to discuss with the Premier, I think we could take those now just to identify them. CDC South, for sure. I think that yesterday there was a presentation for those who were in Oyen from CARA, the Chinook Applied Research Association, and clearly the activity they've had, even with regard to extension, is remarkable. I think it's a unique time to get things going at CDC South, and I'm convinced that if we can, and you know, we're planning to complete this agreement, that this will have a significant aspect, or we can return a lot of significance to that place and service to the community, and I think there'll be jobs generated by that. And there's a lot of interest in it. They know this word is starting to circulate that something's coming here connected to the county of Newell, so that's a good thing, I think. Kelly, please.
In the absence of not hearing from the Seniors and Community and Social Services Minister, I would suggest we ask our MLA/Premier the Pisano Housing Project / Health Facility. Those are two, but we've been working on them forever.
Definitely. I would think all of the topics that were included in the circulation that Matt sent forward with regard to, you know, the inquiry about things that we thought were important, those 5 priorities should be part of that list for sure, right? Which was Sewa, the Sano Project, CDC South, parking lot, JBS, and Highway 36 and 1. And the Lake Road, so some transportation issues. I think one of the other things that would be worth discussing, or just to highlight some of what we think we do well here, which is, you know, I think the matter of maintaining our infrastructure, roads particularly, and all that kind of thing. I think it's worth talking some about that. And I think it has some context with regard to what we've seen happen at CDC South in the last few years too. So those are, you know, just to strengthen the connection to our local area too. So Holly, please.
I'm not sure this is the time, but at some point we have to talk about fire equipment insurance, because if this is the rate we're going to see things going up, we won't be able to afford new fire equipment every 20 years. It just won't happen. So I don't understand all the, you know, Stuart's got different things he looks at for how he feels it's okay or not, but I think we need to look ahead to spiraling costs and replacement schedule. Not going to work.
I think one of the other things, of course, that we cover with the Premier is the matter of water, with like Airmore Dam, and also the significance of water. And we've had some informal discussions, but not taken any direction. But you know, I think we've we've been exposed to the Water Smart presentation on hydrogen development. And I think just to flag that, let's be a little careful with hydrogen development on the Bow Basin simply because of water shortage. And regurgitating what we've already said in the past, but many of the users on the Bow Basin are recycling water. For the most part, hydrogen developed uses the water, and it's gone, and that's a that's a matter of priority, highest use in a limited basin. So I think those are things we need to talk about with the Premier and continue to press with our EID partners. Anyway, that's a different issue. Go ahead, Greg.
I think one thing that we would want to highlight with the Premier is a reminder of how the county is able to, in the past, partner up with some major projects that we've had within the county. One comes to mind is Highway 873 between Kinbrook and Rainier. That project wouldn't have gone without the help of the partnership between the two, and maybe reiterate to her that it's important that it's a two-way street. We did a connection pathway without any funding help from the Alberta government, so I think it is important that that topic is brought up.
Yeah, that's a good point, and certainly that pathway is significantly supportive of what happens at Kinbrook Island, which is a provincial park. So that's also something that should be raised as a primary factor with the Parks Minister when we have that meeting with Minister Lowen, right? Okay, Matt?
I'd just remind Council, the first 2.4 kilometers of the pathway was paid for by the province. They threw 500,000 in, so credit where credit's due.
Yeah, good. Thank you. That maybe covers that meeting. Is there others? The meeting with Forestry and Parks. Adina, please.
Well, now that we've received this letter saying that Kinbrook Island, that's been worked out.
They're working it out.
Okay. I'm just wondering about Steville Bridge campground, if that was something that we could talk to him about as well, and how the access to the river has been blockaded.
Okay.
It's on special area.
Sure. I think it can still be raised. It's not our direct issue, but it impacts a lot of our residents because they would go, good, there's a bridge there. Okay. Anything else?
Attendees for that.
Attendees. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'd like to attend. Who else? It's going to be Adina's, yeah, with Tourism Parks. Who else? Greg? Pardon me? The meeting with Minister Lowen. Okay, that's good. Okay, we can always add some topics as they come to our attention. We'll have a chance to get our heads together in Edmonton as well. So, and the other meetings are to be determined, right? Okay. Holly, go ahead.
Was there a reason that SEWA wasn't on any of our priorities with meeting with ministers? I thought we had talked about that.
It is with the Premier.
Right, but outside of the Premier. No one else, like, it doesn't fall for anybody else?
Not maybe so much with forestry and parks, but with agriculture maybe more. Maybe not either. I don't know. Kelly?
And from the SEWA board, we're thinking it's at the highest level still. Okay, just from the meeting that I attended, that's where it's at. Okay.
Okay, can we move on? Does that cover the basis for now, Ariana? Good, thank you. Thanks for your work on that. And while we've got your full attention, thanks for your good organization or presentation of our organizational meeting. That took us a little longer than it sometimes does, but that was our doing. I appreciated the organization for our use. That was good. Thank you. Item 9.11. Oh, 9.1, RMA resolutions. Nothing to report. Okay, let's go to 9.11. Here we are. Joint municipal meeting, December 14th. Call for agenda items. What should they be? Neil?
Like we mentioned before, I think Newell Regional Waste is in for retooling. Whether it's worth bringing up at that meeting or not, I don't know, because everybody's there.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is probably Sewa again, but everybody might be tired of hearing Sewa every time they go to a meeting.
Should we update with regard to CDC South?
Yes.
I think that would be appropriate. And Newell Regional will be, when is your reorganizational meeting? Coming up fairly soon, I would think.
Oh, I'm not sure. I've got another meeting next week. So then, or it's coming up fairly soon, so we'll see what happens there.
Okay. Matt.
I'm just whispering to Jeff over there. I know we've got IDPs in the budget for work plan next year. I don't know if we've waved the flag to our partners. I know some of them are beyond being overdue. Is that an item you think, Jeff, we should advertise we're looking to get into the trenches?
I think the most necessary IDP to get opened up and revised and approved is the one with the City of Brooks, and I've been in contact with Alan over there. He's not quite ready to have the discussion on it yet due to lack of people in seats over there in certain departments. So we discussed that we'd kind of re-talk about that January time. So if you want to bring it up with the others, I know there's some that want to talk, and it's just been a matter of getting together in the communication.
Okay, thank you. Good to move on. Okay, requests for functions of council. And we have one there, 9.12.1. Matt, please.
Time for a test. Who's the lucky councillors who wants to sit with an auditor and answer some questions about the county's safety program and what you know about it? It's actually an external audit this year, and it's the first time we've had this auditor, but we have a health and safety program. It's important that our people prioritize safety over productivity. Employees have some rights, right to refuse, right to know, and there's a third one that you should know when the auditor asks you. So I'll let you go home and do the homework on that. But yeah, we are looking for 2 counselors that we can add to the audit sample. 2 days there, the 25th or 26th. You pick the time, and Sherry has said she will accommodate around you between the hours of 8 and 4:30.
Okay. Do we have people volunteering to represent us in that forum? I don't see those hands.
I did it last year. Right, Amanda? You and I did it last year?
Okay.
I did it last year.
You did too?
Well, that
Who?
Maybe it was the year before, but that's close enough.
Who else?
I think mine was closer to 45 minutes to an hour and was quite lengthy.
Okay. An hour? Who would be willing to do that? Yeah, me too. Yeah. Adina, have you got? Sorry? Adina? So, okay, Adina, we'll take, sure, okay, who else? Amanda, would you? Okay, right.
Yeah. Pick a day, pick a time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ellen, are you able to do it?
Is on the 26th the Economic Development in Medicine Hat or something? A growth forum?
It is, yeah.
Who's all going to that?
Greg, and who else? Neil?
If it's,
Go ahead, Greg.
if it's in the morning on the 25th, I can. First thing in the morning.
The time, 8, 8:30?
8:30.
Okay, so Greg and Adina will represent us there.
8:30 on the 25th?
Thank you.
Is it individual?
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Are there any other functions of council? Oh, pardon me, first a motion to include the recertification interviews as a function of council. Holly, so moved. All in favor? Please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Any other functions of council? Dan, please.
I think it might have been implied when we formed that last committee, but if it's not, that committee to answer the questions should be a function of council. So I'll move that it be if that's what it requires.
Okay, that's good. Well received. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Anything else? Seeing nothing, let's move to item number 10 and 10.1, Municipal Services Business and the Tender Award for the County of Newell Water Project, Phase 2, Contract 3. Jeff, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I was just thinking that was a lot different than the email I got from Sherry about the core audit interviews. It was, you'll get notified about 10 minutes before we want you in the room. Anyways, thank you very much. In front of you, you have an RFD for award of Contract 3 in Phase 2 of the County of Newell Water Project. This installation will take care of the residences and businesses from Bazzano to Rosemary all the way over to 36 and then north through Gem, which will leave Contract 4 as the Patricia area and Scandia area. Everything else will have been awarded after this contract here. So in July of 2022, we issued a request for pre-qualification publicly to contractors to qualify competent contractors that were capable of doing the work to bid on each of our contracts. At that time, we pre-qualified 8 contractors. We talked a little bit last time when we awarded Contract 2 that we were looking for, efforts for cost savings. So we did go out and we issued a subsequent request for pre-qualification. We had 4 submissions. Unfortunately, none of those contractors qualified to meet the criteria. So we're left with the 8 originals, which was not the end of the world. We issued a tender on August 29th, 2023, and closed it on September 19th, 2023 for servicing 98 locations in the vicinity that I identified. We've got roughly 63.5 kilometers of high-density polyethylene pipe to install, and we received 4 bids on this contract. The low bid was received from Excalibur Mechanical Limited in the amount of $4,712,299.74. I can tell you that this was just over $500,000 less than our engineered estimate leading up to the tender, which is great to see. It's still not lower than our we'd hoped. It's not back to reality quite yet, but we were really surprised to see a lot more competitive bidding on this tender. You'll notice that the spread was from about 4.7 to 5.8, so a little bit smaller spread when I think our highest bid for the last contract that we awarded was just over 4, and the highest bid that came in was well over 9. So nice to see some competitive bidding, and this makes us really confident, with the bids proceeding on to contract 4, that those bids are going to remain competitive and consistent coming out to contract 4. Excalibur Mechanical Limited, I have not worked with Excalibur Mechanical. They obviously put together a good package to pre-qualify to be bid. They are out of Sherwood Park. They have lots of experience in the northern part of the province, Grand Prairie area, some reservations in the north end of the province. They've got extensive experience in poly waterline, poly sanitary force main work, fusing, directional drilling. One of their closer projects, they did complete the Millerville water supply project for the MD of Foothills. That included about 40 kilometers of pipe and serviced 45 rural residences along the way. Looking here to have council make a motion to award contract 3 to Excalibur Mechanical Limited, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Are there questions? That's a good presentation. Lots of questions answered, I think. Are there further questions, though? Anyone have questions or direction with regard to the recommendation? Lynette, please.
I'm ready to make the motion to award.
Excalibur?
Yeah, I've lost the name. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. As per the recommendation, any further questions? I'll call a question. All in favor of the motion as presented, please indicate that is carried unanimously. That's good. Thanks, Jeff. Committee reports. We have a couple of committee reports presented in written form. Newell Housing Foundation, Alberta Municipalities Convention that Ellen presented. Joint services. Greg, you've got a report for us?
Yes. My chair won't go down this time, I don't think, hopefully. Okay, so we met with Joint Services, and we had a couple real good presentations. One was from Diane DeClercq from the Health Foundation, Brooks and District Health Foundation. It was really quite informative in that we got a good idea on what the Health Foundation actually does. They collect donations, and they actually are there to enhance our patients' experiences through different types of equipment and things, funding of these equipment. It's all part of the grant, part of their money is coming from private donations, and part of it is from a grant from the Alberta government. And the Alberta government grant, I believe it's from AHS, I'm not sure, but part of it is, it's determined from the amount of donations that are collected from the area. So the more donations that are collected to Brooks and District Health Foundation, the more grant they received from the Alberta government. I believe that's what it is. So we made a decision at Joint Services that rather than applying some of the new physician incentive type of programs that we have, like the gift basket and things like that, is actually donating that money to the Alberta Health Foundation. That increases their donations, which also increases the funding from the Alberta Health Services. So we get more bang for our buck, and then they work on, and we're in collaboration with them for the physician incentive, physician gifts, so the doctor gifts that we give out. Okay, so that's one part, and that's it was a real good presentation. The other one was from Brent Schroeder from the EID. He just was highlighting some of the projects that they're currently working on, and timelines for filling some of our reservoirs. He said that the lack of snow and moisture in the mountains has really affected the level of the the river. So it is slower to fill the reservoirs, but they're looking at hopefully having it winter filled by the end, probably by the end of November into December, hopefully, as long as things work well. Of course, freezing and things does affect that. Is there anything else that I'm missing, guys? I think that's it. Yeah, so that's the report from Joint Services.
The other one which Greg brought up, Joint Services is looking for a function, a big function like we had last year with the journalists. And we need a really bright idea, and we haven't got it yet, which can come from anywhere. If you got an idea, somebody coming in, something you want to sponsor that gives us, the community, that kind of publicity, we'd be all over it.
You're in fertile ground. We'll see here.
We'll see. That's right. I'm looking for it.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Joint Services? Seeing none, let's move on to Newell Regional Solid Waste Management Authority. Neil, you've got some.
Really not much to report. You guys know all the ins and outs of that. Did they get their income statements, Matt? We were going to email out income statements and balance sheets from Newell Regional to all our councillors.
I don't recall seeing that email. It was supposed to come from Bevins, right?
To you and then out to us.
I'll look.
You'll be getting them right away, though. They're just finished.
Okay.
So you can all have a look at actually what kind of fantastic shape that thing is in.
Okay, good. Any questions? Greg?
What kind of time frame are we looking for the finishing up of the work that's being done out there?
They say a couple months.
Okay. Let's move on to PEP. Holly.
Just really quick, was going to share that we completed our strategic planning, and this is going to put into a 5-year plan by the Alberta government consultant and with Barb's help. As well, Barb had the opportunity to go to Japan for a agriculture trade show. So someone else backed out, so she's going on behalf of PEP, which is a great opportunity for us as well.
Okay, good, thank you. Any questions? Greg, Recreation Divisions 10 and 5.
Okay, so last night we had our Brooks Parks and Recreation meeting. The big topics around there is the approval for the recommendation to the Brooks City Council for the pathway system within the city of Brooks. It was laid out pretty significantly at the meeting, and from what I saw from the planning and how it's going to be funded is I believe the city of Brooks is going to put $100,000 a year towards pathing the city. So it's going to be a little bit here and there throughout the next number of years, but it is encouraging to link some of the current pathways that are there together and try and connect our pathway system that runs out into the county. I think that's an important thing. The other thing we talked about is the hot topic of the day in the city of Brooks is the turf, the natural turf versus unnatural turf. Synthetic, I guess, grass at the football field, the proposed old rodeo ground football field development. They're kind of stuck. They're not really decided to make a decision on that. The cost is very prohibitive with respect to the cost of the synthetic turf, and that, it's a little over 1 point something million extra to put in a synthetic turf. So where they're at, the project is kind of stalled now until Grassland School Division and the other school divisions, give them an idea of what kind of funding they can help out with. They're stuck there, so they're in kind of stuck mode until they get some kind of report from Grasslands and the other school divisions. Other than that, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Are there questions? Matt, please.
I would just remind council the old rodeo grounds development as well as the skateboard park refurbishment are two outstanding items that this council has to make a determination on. We anticipate getting some information in front of you for the budget meeting so we can try and nail some of that down. It sounds like it's a moving target, but I would request from the members on that board if you can forward any of the background information that you've received at the committee level to myself. We'll add it to the agenda for budget review and might be a little more detail for you to sink your teeth into. But I do anticipate with them having spent some money on design this year that they would like to bill the county for our 20% share if the county is going to support those projects. But we first have to answer the question, is the county going to support those projects?
Thanks, Matt. Neil?
Question for Matt, would it be worth, like our Parks Committee went through the thing with the engineers, they put on a presentation to town council, the same one, would it be worth them coming down here? And there's quite a bit of stuff there to go over and some big decisions to be made. Like you can dump an extra $1 million in a heartbeat when you get into projects like that.
Okay, we'll get somebody in front of us at some point in the future.
We can try, yeah.
Okay.
I know they did present to town council for sure, and they presented to Rec and Parks. It's a good presentation.
Greg?
Yeah, they not only presented to Parks and Rec, but they also presented to, included in was the user groups. So that means the football associations, the soccer association, the number of different associations that would actually be user groups of that facility. So there is quite a bit of data opinion out there, and so it's important to put it all together for sure.
In the context of the discussion around pathways in the city, do we have any input into that? And I don't expect any decision-making input, but I wonder if it's not worth us looking forward in terms of, I mean, we've had informal discussions about other concepts for, adding to the pathway, but it would really, I think, be pretty to everyone's advantage if the city is developing a plan for, if they're doing a certain amount every year, let's make sure it goes somewhere. And if we have a plan to say do something more on the east side of, in the consideration of CDC South, the aqueduct, and you could quite easily make a loop that provides some options, and that's when a pathway system starts to become a system. So I would suggest that, and is it through joint services or Rec and Parks or both, that we take some initiative to suggest those discussions be strategic, so that at the end of the day we're building towards something and not just a haphazard pathway that doesn't go anywhere. So go ahead, Lynette, please.
Would that be something to throw out at the joint unis meeting and just see if there's interest from anybody else and what their thoughts are?
That's a good idea to add that. I think, yeah. And also with joint services, because I think there's some considerations, we can, more to come, I would say. We should make sure that further discussion happens. Somebody else have a comment? Neil?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, and Lynette's too. Like, you'll have the EID in the room too, and hardly a pathway gets built without needing the EID, so good point.
Well, and with the aqueduct, some of that historic aspect, and then, who am I to say where it's going to go, but the benefit of these things is if there's some loops that aren't 28 kilometers long, that are 6 or 8 or something less. Okay. Thanks, Greg. Southern Alberta Energy from Waste. Neil, you got anything more to add?
No, really nothing more to add. You guys know everything that's going on there.
Okay. I think that's our committee reports, unless there's anybody else. Oh, right, Dina. You're not on here.
So Dan told me that he grabbed the sheet and it skipped over me, so I didn't get a chance to.
Okay.
So, Brooks Regional Tourism. We had a meeting and our AGM last month. And so just a couple of points from there. Our event development fund is now at $6,350, so that's all we have left for people to apply for until the end of March. A couple of things about the summer. The museum and White Barn Fun Farm both reported that it was very slow for them. The suspicion is because it was so hot, everybody was drawn to the lakes. But due to for the White Barn Fun Farm, which I myself haven't been to, but I've heard great things, they are going to be decreasing their animals by half for the winter because they can't afford to feed them because of how slow the summer was. And disc golf, wow, I didn't know. Bazzano and Rosemary both have disc golf courses, and those were really busy this summer with tournaments. And then just as far as our AGM, the council is all the same, our chairperson, secretary, and that. We did talk about the Not a Drumheller campaign that they used. Sounds like it was really well received. An example of the Not Drumheller campaign was that the slogan said, we love Drumheller, we really do, we're just not that close. Dinosaur Park, Drumheller. Anyway, Drumheller got a hold of this not in Drumheller thing, and they think it's awesome, and so now they want to create this feud type back and forth thing on social media about in Drumheller and not Drumheller. So anyway, so it's turned out really well. It's been very, very positive. So stay tuned. And also, I guess, because I was like, I don't see this on my social media, but they target it for in Calgary area. So if you were in Calgary and you were to look up Drumheller or Dinosaur Park, that's when you would see the not in Drumheller type. But anyway, so yeah, that sounds good, and that's all I got to say about that.
It's good, thank you. I think you'd have some allies across the river in the special areas with regard to the trail and the little dinosaur caricature that we helped support about a year ago or sometime. They certainly look forward to traffic out that way too, so. Good, thank you. That's our committee reports. Post agenda items, there are none, I believe, and information items are presented for information. Are there any questions about any of those? Seeing none, a motion to move in camera would be accepted. Amanda, all in favor that we move in camera? That's carried. Thank you.